with the actual target.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily the same thing. You can make jokes about any subject. It depends what the joke is.
Yeah.
There's no rules. You can't joke about this. You can.
You should be able to.
You just can.
Yeah.
Okay? And there's nothing...
People often get upset when they mix up the subject of a joke with the target. But the two aren't always the same thing. You can joke about anything. It's all about how the joke is told. There are no real rules about what you can or can't joke about. Comedy has no boundaries, and nothing is off limits. That's what's so powerful about comedy. And Ricky Gervais just proved that with his latest stand-up special. He faced death threats, boycotts, and endless online backlash.
Favourite swear word? It's everyone's, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It doesn't count.
You need to invent something a bit worse.
That's what we're best at.
Yeah.
British. I think an Englishman is the best person in the world to say that word. Americans can say it, but there's no you. Derek and Clive, I think, reached the pinnacle of that word.
Let us start with what sparked.
He did something that left Hollywood stunned. He stood his ground. Ricky Gervais has always been a bit of a troublemaker in the comedy world. He's hosted the Golden Globes 5 times, and each time, he managed to offend almost every celebrity in the room. But it was his recent takedown of today's woke culture that really shook things up in the comedy world. In his Netflix special, Supernature, Gervais went straight for the jugular, calling out the new unwritten rules in comedy, the ones that say some topics are off limits. He made a bold statement. There's no subject you can't joke about. The room was silent. His words landed like a bombshell. The backlash...
Not all women. I mean the old-fashioned ones. You know, the old-fashioned women. Oh, God. You know, the ones with wombs. Oh. Those fucking dinosaurs.
As usual. Social media critics were quick to pile on. But instead of apologizing, Gervais did something unexpected. He doubled down. In a stand-up show, he took the stage and explained why today's outrage culture is missing the point. He told the crowd, people mix up the subject of a joke with the actual target of it. He went on to say that in comedy, context is everything. A joke isn't about
offending anyone because it just happens, so... And the big controversy last time I did it was a Caitlyn Jenner joke, right? Oh, outrage on Twitter the next day. And by outrage, I mean a couple of people going, it was transphobic. It wasn't transphobic in the slightest. It was a joke about a trans person, but the joke had nothing to do with that aspect of her existence. And that's the other thing about offence. People get offended when they mistake the subject of a joke with the actual target, and they're not necessarily the same. I'll tell you the joke. You make your own minds up. Right. So... It's live, so they go, and now your host for the 68th Annual Golden Globe Awards, please welcome Ricky Gervais. They come on, and they're all clapping, all the actors are looking up, smiling at me nervously. It's brilliant, right? So I just go, relax, I'm going to be nice tonight. I've changed. Not as much as Bruce Jenner. And I go, now Caitlyn Jenner, of course, and what a year she's had, became a role model for trans people everywhere, bravely breaking down barriers and destroying stereotypes. She didn't do a lot for women drivers, right? So, that's a clever joke, and I'll tell you why, right? It's layered. No, listen, right? The subject of that joke is stereotypes. I'm playing with the notion of stereotypes, right? So I start off saying, she's a real woman. Some would say a liberal, progressive attitude. Then I go, oh, if she's a real woman, I hit them with the old-fashioned reactionary stereotype. She must be a bad driver then, right? And the target of the joke is a celebrity killing someone in their car. Let's not forget that, shall we? A celebrity killing someone in their car, running home and popping on a dress. That's the target of the joke, just so we're clear, okay? She was interviewed about a week later at some press conference for a show she was launching, now cancelled. And the press were around and one of them said, what do you think of the Ricky Gervais joke? And she went, maybe I should host the Golden Globes, right? And they tweeted that, and they atted me in, because they want a celebrity feud, you know? It was clickbait, so I rose to the bait. obviously. I just sent back, let her host, just don't let her drive. Another website that was in the room, Entertainment Weekly, they tweeted a different headline and they added me in as well. And their headline was, Caitlyn finally breaks silence over Ricky Gervais.
Person. It's about making people think and, sometimes, making them uncomfortable. This distinction became the backbone of his defense as he pushed back against the critics who just didn't get it. Let's talk about the woke brigade for a second. Not all women, of course, I mean the traditional ones, the ones with wombs, the old school ladies. Those dinosaurs, as Ricky Gervais might say.
Weekly, they tweeted a different headline and they added me in as well. And their headline was, Caitlyn finally breaks silence over Ricky Gervais. I just sent back, at last. She always breaks too late. Bring it on. Bring it on. But I'm a considered comedian. I like my jokes to be accurate and my targets to be fair. So I was engaging these people. I was saying, why is it transphobic? And they were saying, it's about a trans person. I said, well, that's ridiculous. That's like saying a joke about Bill Cosby is automatically racist. It depends on the joke. But I was talking to them, I'm willing to learn, and I found out my crime was that I dead named her. Now, I'd never heard that term, before a day after the Golden Globes, and that was saying her old name and even acknowledging that she used to be a man. But she did. I saw him on the Olympic Games. It was decathlete. It was in everything. He was all over the place. Shot put and pole vault. He won a medal. He was famous. He was on telly all the time. But, a big, famous man with a huge, I don't know, but I mean, I'm guessing he's a big, but I've learned my lesson. Now, I'd never dead name her now. Now I know it's wrong. I'd never dead name her now. But like years ago, when
Golden Globes joke about Caitlyn Jenner, for example, the one that caused a Twitter meltdown, Gervais took the time to explain why that joke wasn't transphobic. It was actually about a celebrity involved in a car accident. The subject and the target were totally different. Just because a joke involves a trans person doesn't automatically make it anti-trans. Gervais made a comparison.
Ricky G here, wellness and beauty influencer. As a celebrity, I know all about stuff, like science and politics. So trust me when I tell you who you should vote for. If you don't vote the right way, that's like a hate crime, or makes me sad and angry. And only
this person is like saying a joke about Bill Cosby is racist. It just doesn't work that way. Here's how he broke it down. I didn't have to worry about offending anyone, it just happens. The big controversy from the last time I hosted was a joke about Caitlyn Jenner. He went on to explain how the outrage started, mostly from a few people on Twitter claiming it was transphobic.
It wasn't, he said.
It wasn't transphobic in the slightest. The joke was about a trans person, but it wasn't about her being trans. Gervais continued, people get offended when they mistake the subject of a joke for the actual target. And the two aren't always the same thing.
Major categories. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. The Hollywood foreign press are all very, very racist. So, fifth time. So, we were going to do an in memoriam this year, but when I saw the list of people that had died, it wasn't diverse enough. No. It was mostly white people. And I thought, nah, not on my watch. So, maybe next year. Let's...
The point home, he explained the setup of that joke. Here's how it went. So there I am, hosting the 68th Annual Golden Globe Awards. The crowd is clapping, actors are nervously smiling at me. It's brilliant. I say, relax, I'm going to be nice tonight, I've changed. Then I hit them with, not as much as Bruce Jenner. The room goes quiet. Oh, Caitlyn Jenner, of course. What a year she's had, becoming a role model for trans people everywhere, breaking down barriers and destroying stereotypes. But she didn't do a lot for women drivers. Gervais explained that this was a clever, layered joke. The subject of the joke was stereotypes. I start off by calling Caitlyn Jenner a real woman, which sounds progressive. But then, I turn it on its head by playing on an old, reactionary stereotype. Women drivers. It's about playing with people's expectations. Let's be clear about the target of the joke. It wasn't about Caitlyn Jenner being trans. It was about a celebrity involved in a car accident, and the irony of that celebrity then making headlines for their transition. The joke wasn't attacking Caitlyn as a person. It was poking fun at the situation.
Like that. My back's getting hairier by the day. I've got fangs. I love nuts. Oh, I love nuts. And once I was at the zoo and I could tell people were looking at me, so I just started masturbating. So, I am a chimp, right? I am a chimp if I say I'm a chimp. And so I've got to live as a chimp for a year, then have hormones, get me all nice and hairy. That'd be lovely, right? I'm going to stay a male chimp so I can keep all that, right? A male heterosexual chimp, keep the same girlfriend. Jane will be happy. She loves me. She loves chimps, so, you know. And I reckon that's got to be easier for a man to turn into a chimp. We're so close. Than for a man to turn into a woman in many ways. You know what I mean? A bit of hair and a top lip like that, as opposed to your cock and balls ripped off and a hole gouged out into... No, I'm not a doctor, but that is the gist of it. I know which one I'd rather have done. And I'm not saying I think chimps are better than women. No way. Right? Any ladies here, right? I can't see you, but to me, every single one of you is equal to a chimp. So...
It's about context, not just the subject. A week after the Golden Globes, Caitlyn Jenner was asked at a press conference about the joke. She responded, "Maybe I should host the Golden Globes." The media, of course, jumped all over it, trying to stir up a celebrity feud. They tagged Ricky in the tweet, hoping for drama. But Ricky wasn't having it. He fired back. "Let her host. Just don't let her drive." Entertainment Weekly was in the room during this exchange and tweeted a different headline. Caitlyn finally breaks silence on Ricky Gervais' joke. Again, Ricky responded, keeping things sharp. At last, she always breaks too late. It was all part of his strategy to call out Hollywood's hypocrisy, and this time, he wasn't holding back. Gervais had already made waves with his critique of the celebrity culture at the Golden Globes. Picture it, Ricky standing on stage, looking out at a room full of Hollywood's most privileged, wearing Time's Up pins, while working for companies with questionable labor practices. It was a perfect setup to call out the glaring contradictions, and he leaned into it with a smile, revealing the hypocrisy of it all. But it wasn't just about the Caitlyn Jenner joke. It was the brutal, honest commentary about the entertainment industry that really rubbed people the wrong way. He wasn't just pointing out the hypocrisy, he was reveling in it. When the critics came after him, Ricky stood firm. He explained that comedy should be about pushing boundaries. When people tell you there's a line you can't cross, that's exactly when you should joke about it, he said. Comedy is meant to challenge, not to respect every sacred boundary that's drawn by others. And